there was a few moments where I was like, I'm gonna leave. Hey sailors, happy new year. Oh my god, I cannot believe we are in 2023. Like, I'm sorry what happened, but anyway, I hope you had an absolutely spectacular New Year's Eve, and maybe you're feeling a bit hungover today. Maybe I need to lower the volume if you're hungover, or you know, maybe you just had a chilled night in like myself, but nevertheless, I hope you celebrated in style and you're feeling motivated and excited for this new year ahead. Today, since it is the start of the new year, I did want to just reflect on last year, on my last contract, because it was very mixed. I mean, there were aspects of it that were really tough and aspects of it that were incredible. So yeah, that is what we are gonna go through today. So this contract on Valiant started a bit weird. I was supposed to join at the beginning of February to do the setup ready for the launch, and I remember I went to get my COVID test, my PCR test, so I could fly, because you needed a PCR test to fly then. So it was the day before I flew, and I got the results and it came back positive. I was like, as if I've gone literally like 2 years without getting COVID, and I've got it the day before I'm supposed to fly to Italy. Anyway, so that delayed my start, which was, you know what, it was actually a blessing in disguise, because as I've said before, setting up a cruise ship is a lot of work, a lot of heavy lifting, and I actually ended up getting there towards the end of the setup because I had to quarantine for 10 days. So by the time I joined Valiant, a lot of it was done, or a lot of the like deliveries were done, which made it a lot easier on me. I mean, for that reason, it was just a bit of a rocky start. I was like, oh, for Christ's sake, this was not in the plan. When you look at my YouTube history, I came out of quarantine and then I posted a video about the ups and downs of the quarantine restrictions, but I didn't know how hectic it was going to be when I first got on board. So what I did is I pre-filmed a lot of videos at home. So I had actually joined the ship while home videos were still being posted, if you like, which meant that there was actually quite a lot of time in between the last quarantine video I posted and the ups and downs video I posted. But obviously when you look at the YouTube, it looks like they were right next to each other. Anyway, so during that time, COVID restrictions were fine when we first joined. And honestly, that's what we thought was going to carry on throughout the contract, because when a lot of us had left Scarlet, there was shore leave, there was parties, there were no masks, there were, like, COVID was slowly starting to diminish and all the restrictions have been lifted, life was relatively back to normal. So everyone assumed that when we came on Valiant, that would just be the case. But then after about a month or so, COVID cases started to rise. So obviously they introduced social distancing, masks, constant like sanitizing of areas. There was no crew bar, no crew parties. There were big like plastic screens in the mess, and you couldn't linger in the mess. So like normally you can just have your lunch in the mess and maybe sit there with a coffee and have a catch up with someone. Literally as soon as you finished eating, you had to leave. All understandable restrictions, like obviously you're trying to stop the spread of COVID, which is especially important on a cruise ship because it can spread so fast because there's so many people in such a small space. It was really hard to adjust to, and people said like, oh, why did you find that hard? Because when you went on the Scarlet Lady, you couldn't actually get off the ship for the first 3 months of your contract. And that is true, but I think the big thing is mindset. And when I went on Scarlet, I knew that I wouldn't be able to get off. In fact, I didn't think I'd be able to get off for the whole contract. Like, that is what they had set you up to think. Harding called me before and they were like, do you want to accept this contract? You need to go on expecting you're going to get on at the start of your contract and you're going to get off at the end of your contract. And I honestly didn't realise how big of an impact setting up your mindset could have, which I know sounds stupid, but now I think back and I'm like, how did I not get off a ship for 3 months and not lose my shit? And it's because I expected that. I knew that was the case. I had prepared myself for that. But then on Valiant, I had prepared myself for no restrictions, we can get off all the time. So then when that wasn't the case, and when, you know, we had shore leave and then they took it away, you have to wear masks, and now you don't because the cases have lowered. Oh, but now they're back up, so you have to wear masks again. You get the gist. It was a constant shift in rules. It was like, hang on, can I go to the sailor gym or can't I go to the sailor gym? Can I go outside? Can I not go outside? And these are things that you need to know, like, where can I eat? Where can I exercise? Where can I go? And where can't I go? And that was constantly shifting. So that was really, really hard to deal with, especially because I was expecting just smooth sailing. I wasn't ready for all of these changes and restrictions and obstacles to come into place. So when they did, it was genuinely like really, really tough to adjust. And then that's when I made the video that I'll link down below about like hard times, which is where I was honestly just at my lowest point. And I was like, why am I here? What am I doing here? Because the thing is, I've always said I love working on cruise ships. I love the lifestyle, and that's why I do it. I do not do it for the money. And let me just say now, no Westerner goes to work on a cruise ship for the money. You do it for the lifestyle and the experience, and it is such an incredible experience. So when I was there earning very, very average money, and I wasn't enjoying the lifestyle because I wasn't getting off and seeing amazing ports. I wasn't going to crew bar. I wasn't socialising with people outside my department because we weren't allowed. I was having to wear masks all the time, even when, and I think this was the big thing, outside and like in the UK, masks were no longer a thing. It was really hard when you knew that everyone on land was no longer wearing masks, but yet you had to wear them all the time. There was a few moments where I was like, I'm gonna leave. I was so close to leaving because I was like, this is not it. Like, I'm not enjoying this. This is awful. And, you know, normally you can kind of put up with an awful job if the money's great, but I was like, I could earn more money if I got a job in England. Don't want to get a job in England, but like, I could not enjoy myself and be earning more money in England. So it was just really hard to find the positive and rationalize it. Normally, if I get pissed off about how much money I make, I'm like, yeah, but look at the life I'm living. I'm off in Ibiza every week and Palma de Mallorca and all of these amazing places. Life isn't all about money. But when you're not doing that and you're not earning money, it's like, well, why am I missing my friend's wedding, my friend's child growing up, my mum's birthday? Like, why am I missing all of these significant events for this? Like, it's a really, really hard justification to make. But anyway, I somehow made it and got through that time. And, you know, Virgin Voyages were actually great. Like, they really understood that everyone was having a hard time with it and they needed to basically sort something out. Yes, they needed to keep the COVID cases down, but they also needed to make sure that the crew members weren't going to top themselves. So they started introducing bubble tours, which meant that a select few crew members could get off. Most of them were free, some of them we had to pay for, but obviously that is your prerogative. But it was just good of them to give people the option of that. And I think as well, something else that was really hard is when we were going through all of that, like the restriction changes, we were going from England to Zeebrugge or Zeebrugge, I don't know how you say it, but Belgium. We were doing Amsterdam, Belgium, England. Lovely, lovely countries, but the weather is awful. Awful. So it's not like, even though you're trapped on the ship, you can go and lie in the sun or go and sit outside and read a book or walk around the track, because it was like raining and minus, or probably not minus, but it was freezing. And I honestly, the weather does have such a huge impact, and I do think that if we'd have been going through all of that crap, but we'd have been doing it in the Mediterranean, I do think it would have been a completely different experience. And speaking to people who are on other cruise lines, the people that were going through all of that shit, but they were in the Caribbean or they were in America or somewhere that was sunny, like it was a lot easier to deal with. But then you speak to people who were doing like Alaska, Norway, Finland. They're spectacular places, but the weather at that time in like February, March is rubbish. And therefore it's just another thing that you have to contend with. It's like when you finally do get to go out, you're going out in the freezing cold and the rain. It's like, oh God. But anyway, we got through it. And then in about June, that's when things really started to loosen up. Like we got shore leave, and I think like me and my friends went on a trip to Brussels, which was incredible. We had 5 days in Amsterdam where we didn't have any passengers on board because they were filming The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, some American TV series. And during that 5 days, we were able to get off, go into Amsterdam. We were just able to come and go as we pleased. But I know that was really important because leading up to that, a lot of crew were like, if we don't have shore leave for those 5 days in Amsterdam, I'm out. And I was one of them, understandably, because obviously it is the crew's job to keep COVID cases down, but you're bringing all of these people on who've travelled from America to film this TV series, who could all have COVID, but you're not letting the crew get off. I don't know, but anyway, they did let the crew get off and everything was fine and it worked out, and from there things started to get a lot better. Like, we still had to wear masks for a while after, but we got shore leave, and you know what? That was all anyone cared about. Like, if you have shore leave, you can pretty much deal with everything because you could get off the ship and disconnect from it for a little bit. But if you can't get off, it's like you never get out of that headspace. So yeah, that was a big moment when shore leave was granted, and it was like, it's not going to be taken away. Because again, by that point, shore leave had been granted so many times that it was like, we're not even going to get excited about it this time because it's just going to be taken away. They're like, no, like this time it's probably going to stay as is. And it did, which was fantastic. And then from then on, it just got better and better. We transitioned over to the Med and we started doing the Spanish Obsession cruise and the French cruise and the Italian cruise, which in like a 3-week rotation, which was, a 4-week rotation, which honestly was just wonderful. It was one of the best itineraries I've ever done. We had shore leave pretty much the whole way through, and restrictions after that point just kept easing off. Like, then you could stay in the mess a little bit longer. Then the crew bar opened, then the masks disappeared, and it just slowly went back to normal. So by the end of being on Valiant, things were pretty normal. And it's wonderful because on Valiant, just before I left, it was like it was before COVID. It was normal ship life. So I say to people, like, if you're gonna start your cruise ship career now is a perfect time, because now it's like COVID never happened, which is amazing. So yeah, for that reason it was great. But for those reasons, this contract was really mentally challenging. Like, to be honest, we didn't really work that much in the shops. So like the itinerary was really great for us in terms of time off, because a lot of the ports were late sails and there was an overnight every single week, which means that we didn't open in the evening. So work-wise, I wasn't tired at all, but mentally I was just knackered because of all of the emotions that I went through during the cruise. And then there were a lot of other things that went on. I mean, at the beginning of the contract back in Feb, we found out about the war in Ukraine starting, and there's a lot of Ukrainians that not only work on board Virgin Voyages, but work on all cruise ships. And one of my best friends is from the Ukraine. So that was to have to deal with all of the COVID restrictions and also deal with the fact that your country's at war. I just can't even imagine how they dealt with it, how people from the Ukraine dealt with it, because just dreadful. So yeah, there was a lot of things that went on this contract that made it difficult for everyone. So now, after saying all that, you're probably thinking, oh my God, that sounds like a horrendous contract. I'm not gonna lie to you, Scarlet was definitely easier. I think I was happy every single day on the Scarlet Lady. whereas Valiant, there were a lot more highs and lows. But I got to go back on Valiant with a team of people that I loved working with. I got to go back with some of my best friends that I have ever made on ships, like Yulia, Freddie, Kaysen, Matt, like, and many other people, which is wonderful. And we had some truly wonderful times. And what I love about doing YouTube is that those wonderful times, the majority of them are captured on camera, and I can go back and literally watch them. I don't even have to remember them. I can actually watch them, which is wonderful. But yeah, I had some wonderful times with the people that I love, and meeting more people that are just incredible. And then also getting to meet some of you guys. Like, there was, I'm gonna say, on pretty much every cruise that we had, every week's cruise, there was someone who came on who watched Cruising as Crew, and I got to meet them and got to just get to know you guys, which was just wonderful, because obviously right now it's just me talking to a camera, so it's really nice to actually meet the people who are behind the computer. So if you are one of them that I got to meet on board, then I loved meeting you, and it was so wonderful. So all in all, it was a good contract. It was knackering. I definitely need this time at home to relax and be with my family and live in normality for a while. But all in all, it was great. And although there were aspects of it that were really, really tough, I got so much more out of it than I expected. And I'm really happy that I didn't quit back in April when I was having a really shit time, because it just got better and better and better. How different my life would be if I'd have quit. Anyway, that is it. Just a little ramble from me reflecting on my last contract and how hard but also how good it was. And if you have been watching my videos throughout this contract, I just want to say a huge thank you and a big hug, because honestly YouTube was a big reason that I was able to keep it going, and you guys were such a massive support, and just knowing that I was helping people through making these videos gave me a purpose to keep doing it when I really didn't know why I was doing it. So just a massive, massive, massive thank you to you. But anyway guys, that is it for today. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video guys. Bye.